Yeah, so our next speaker is here to share his valuable experience. We have Yannik Kopp, CSO and Deputy CEO from LORIOT, which is a pioneering company for LPWAN and network management in Switzerland. Even before joining LORIOT, his mission was always to bring connectivity to his customers. He worked at Microsoft as a cloud architect and IoT specialist, but now he is here to talk about the decade of experience in LPWAN. Welcome, Yannik.
Oh. Thank you very much for this very kind introduction. I hope I can live up to the expectations. I will do my best. You can tell me afterwards. Good morning, everyone. And as some of you might know or not know, we at LORIOT, we are actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. So starting in 2015, now still being in the market today. And I want today open a little bit the curtains of what we have learned in this decade in the trenches. What went well, what didn't work out, which mistakes did we do. But before we dig deeper into this, maybe you can quickly start the clock so I can see how much time is left. Anyway, otherwise I just keep talking. Now, before we dig deeper into this topic, I would like to take a step back and actually want to show you how the perception of IoT has changed over the years. Maybe some of you, like when you already were in the industry, this is the Gartner hype cycle of emerging technologies in the year 2015. And there you can see at the pinnacle at the top, the Internet of Things, the peak of inflated expectations. And hell yeah, inflated they were. And I remember the customer discussions back then, like talking about contracts and prices and so on. Yeah, we were talking about, next 2 years, million of devices are connected. Did it happen? No. Like the cold hard truth hit, right? After like the big hyperscalers, IBM, Microsoft, AWS, they all invested billions. Startups were popping up. Like it really felt like the golden era of IoT. But then this the valley of tears, like this row of disillusionment, hit really hard. And after the years, like the individuals, like persons, even the hyperscalers start writing off IoT. They completely stopped their investments, closed down their departments, and they thought, this was not a fruitful hype. But I have some good news for you, because at least from our perspective, IoT has reached its turning point where we are looking at exponential growth. Like the curve we are showing here or seeing here are the connected, very important, connected devices to our publicly available systems. So unluckily, I can't tell you the exact numbers of devices. Unluckily, I'm not allowed to, but we are very close to a 7-digit number here. And it's actually very good news, because after 10 years, we finally reached this point of exponential growth. And now some of you in the audience might ask, fairly, okay, why is it happening now? And it's basically the investment finally paid off, because from one perspective, digitalization, and I take IoT as part of all these big digitalization efforts, it takes years, especially in enterprises, to make those initiatives happen, because technology is only one part of it. Right? And it's probably the easiest part to get the necessary tools. Much harder is to change kind of the behavior and mindset of the people inside of the company. And some might not even make this change of mindset, right? And it took quite a while until this to happen. And then, probably a lot of people can agree on this. Implementation, especially scaling IoT use cases, is really hard work. Yeah, you might bring out 5 devices or 10 devices, but when it goes into the hundreds and thousands, it takes very good planning. It takes also experience and the right partners to do so. And brings me to the third point. We needed this ecosystem that we have today and the majority of the products to actually make this scaling happen. Because yeah, you don't want to bring like half-baked products out in the field in the thousands and then have to replace them in the next few months. They will break the complete business case. Now, as said, over this decade in the trenches that we have spent, we kind of gathered a playbook or a blueprint how to scale IoT projects, and I want to share some insights here. Unluckily, I can't share everything. We don't have the time for this, but I want to share you kind of the most valuable lessons that we have learned here. And this kind of goes from the business aspects of an IoT use case over kind of technical questions that need to be asked, and how to onboard and offboard and maintain and operate IoT use cases, to the deployment and kind of the whole scaling aspect of it. And like the lessons that we have learned, right? They were kind of done in a learning by doing method, because yeah, it was back in the days. It was a new field. Nobody had real experience, so we had to learn it by heart. And this is why I called this like lessons from the trenches, because it really felt like this. Now, the first lesson that I want to share is to always start with a use case, with a proper, well-defined use case that has business value to it. Just implementing tech because it's cool and you think, oh, this needs to be implemented in a certain way won't bring the success you're looking for. Unluckily, in the past, we have seen way too many times that, for example, LoRaWAN networks are being rolled out with the thought in mind, the use cases will come once we are done. They won't. Like if you are implementing an IoT use case just because you have the tech available, it won't work out. You need to have like a clear use case in mind. You need to show a clear return on investment. Otherwise, at one point, your budget will be cut, and then your project will stall and fail. And then, unluckily, we have seen this way too many times in the past. Now, the second lesson I want to share is your POC is not a product or a service. It's great if you have a clear idea, a use case in mind, you rolled out 5 or 10 devices, you proved kind of the value of your product, but this is kind of only the first step to take. You need to make sure that you are ready for this scaling phase, right? What happens if I have 100 devices in the field? What happens if I have 1,000 devices in the field? Who takes care of these devices? Who maintains them? What happens if a device is failing, if a battery runs empty? And yeah, I heard some crazy stories in the past where a very big pharmaceutical company, which is rolling out LoRaWAN networks all over the world, and one site manager told me, yeah, you know, this IoT stuff is basically a hobby of mine. Like, I'm like in my free time, I'm running around exchanging batteries of devices. Right, and this is kind of, not what you would expect, right? Because they're running like high ROI use cases on this, but they haven't thought about this, the maintenance part of it. And this is really something that needs to be planned before you start rolling out, because retrofitting or coming up with a concept after you have done it is always, won't lead to success. The third lesson, and this is actually a project of ours that we have done in Austria, in the Salzburg forest, basically 2 hours away from Salzburg. We were installing environmental sensors really deep in the forest. It was like 2-hour drive and then 30-minute hike. And like not just in this case, but in general, you want to work with trusted and proven partners. And in the speech before, this was also mentioned, right? Like such a partner ecosystem is kind of a key for success. You need to make sure that you have like this trusted partner next to your side, because when you are in the middle of the forest, you need to have someone that is kind of close to you. And even if things go south and don't work out, you need to be able to trust these guys, right? I mean, they have been incredibly agile, helping out even when the things didn't look as they should. They come up with solutions, and this is incredibly valuable, because like skipping such a deployment, driving back those 2.5 hours, then basically the whole business case is broken. And this also goes in direction of the hardware you're using, because imagine if like this sensor is offline after 6 months or whatever, then we need to do the whole travel again, and the business case is broken afterwards. And yeah, we at LORIOT, we spent quite some time on building this ecosystem, making sure that our partners are well trusted from our side and also from their side. They're well equipped with all the know-how they need. And on paper, partnerships always are easy. Just a signature on a paper, great, we are partners, right? But the real value of a partnership shows when things don't go as expected. And this is also when you're working in projects and things get a bit hairy, and you need to be able to trust on each other. This is where it really shows if you're working with the right partner. Because I want to be able to pick up the phone and when I'm in the middle of the field somewhere, be able to call my sensor partner, asking them, why is this sensor not coming online, right? And I need to have someone on my side that I can trust with this. Next point or next lesson, smooth onboarding is crucial. And the product you have showed, I call it pizza box, is an amazing example. This is exactly what you bring to the field, right? You have one box, like a little bit of an Apple experience, looks nicely, looks great. Once you open it, you immediately think, wow, this is a great product. I want to use it. And this is exactly the effect you want to have, especially when rolling out a large number of sensors. Because there's nothing worse than if you have like a facility manager in the field sitting in front of like 500 devices that he has to somehow nitty-gritty open up and then put sensors in and then install somewhere. He will say, this is shit job. I don't want to do it. And this needs to be well documented. This needs to be smooth, not just on hardware side, but also on software side, right? You want to make sure that the users that are consuming kind of the data or your use case, they know where to find the results of your use case. They need to know, okay, where is the return on invest on this case? And there, all the, let's say, the money spent on this process is very well done because it helps you to actually earn this return of invest. And then the last lesson I want to share is continuously add layers of value. Like once you have your use case out, right, and it's working great, you start collecting data. It's super important to keep thinking, how can I expand this, the use case I already have in the field? What added value can I bring to the customers I already have? Because there's nothing easier to kind of work with existing customers. And the nice thing about IoT is once you have like a working solution and people seeing this, your customers are seeing this, they start kind of thinking, okay, how can I apply IoT to other fields of my business? And this is really a great entry. And I have a beautiful kind of example from the field, from a highly valued customer of ours, is MachineMax. They developed a solution for optimizing fuel consumption of heavy machinery on construction sites. They built this device, they can put it next to the engine exhaust and it measures the vibration and it can say, okay, this machine is actually working or it's idling. So it's not working, but consuming fuel. And I mean, there is a limit to this use case because at one point you have perfectly optimized your machine park. So they perfectly used this kind of entry to the construction sites to add other layers of value and add new solutions to this kind of to the use case portfolio. Now they are doing worker security, they're doing predictive maintenance, they're doing asset tracking, all based on this first kind of foot in the door with their first use case and the consumption of fuel. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to share today. I'm around. My colleague Alan, who's sitting in the back, is also around. So if you want to discuss your IoT use case, how to scale it, we are more than happy to connect and support you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yannik. We have time for a question.
Fabio.
Yep, great presentation. I really love the tips and based on your experience, really very interesting. Question is, what's in your experience the average success rate of the projects, and how you see them change or evolving through the years?
Very good question. I mean, like our core business is deploying the LoRaWAN networks, right? We see the networks being deployed, and then we see the growth of devices in this network. And like the curve I've been showing before, right, perfectly showed this. And it's kind of hard to say how successful the actual use cases implemented based on the networks were. But what we are seeing today is that the use cases are much more specific. People starting with a clear use case in mind and what they want to achieve. While years ago, it was basically the tech first, right? Yeah, we're doing LoRaWAN. Okay, and now what happens? So we see much better and well-defined use cases being rolled out end to end with a clear vision and a clear scaling plan in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for that very precise answer to such a challenging question. Unfortunately, we need to direct you to Yannik afterwards in the break because we're running out of time and we don't want to steal your precious coffee break either.
Okay.
But he is here the whole day. His colleagues are here and they are here to answer all of your questions. Thank you so much, Yannik.
Thank you.
You lived up to the expectations.
Nice.